Hey, moms and dads, Dr. Steven here with Crossroads Chiropractic. If your child is struggling with things like ADHD, immune challenges, developmental delays, sensory struggles, seizures, or any difficult diagnosis, our team and I have been there, walked through it, and are here to help. You see, the truth is, when you meet our team of doctors and care advocates at Crossroads Chiropractic, we all have a story of what got us here to help kids and families with complex neurological struggles and challenges. For the majority of us, it was our own kids' challenges that started us on the journey. You see, our team consists of moms and dads of children who are on the spectrum or been diagnosed with rare diseases, special needs, had traumatic birth injuries, needed to work through major allergies or chronic immune struggles, or dealt with motor, sensory, or speech delays. We've seen and experienced it, and that's why we want to help you. Now, I know I've talked about my son's story in some detail, but what I really want to walk you through is the real struggle that we had, the real uh, things that we dealt with as myself and his mom, my wife, had to go through. You see, we had a traumatic birth experience. Now, this led to a lot of other struggles. The traumatic birth experience was set up due to prenatal stress late in the pregnancy journey. In the third trimester was when my wife and I moved to Georgia to go to chiropractic school. To do that, we both had to give up both of the career paths we were on and move away from all of our family and friends. When we did that, the amount of stress that put on my wife, who was going to be a first time mother, really, really stressed her out. And then as the day came close for the due date and we had the whole birth plan figured out, what happened was we got to the due date and he hadn't come. So we began to wait. A week went by. So now we're at 41 weeks. He's still not coming. We get to 42 weeks. Now the pressure's on because in order for us to have it with the midwife group we wanted, he had to be born on or before his 42-week date. And so my wife began the process of using castor oil to induce labor. Now, if you've had anyone who's ever done this and used castor oil to begin the labor process, you know it is not easy on that mother. Because what castor oil does is not only will it help kickstart contractions, but it will also empty them out. It'll really clean everything out of their digestive system. And so my wife's going through this process of every so often following the proper guidelines, taking castor oil to get things going. And the contractions start, labor starts. So we rush over to this midwife clinic. We get to our room, we get everything rolling. My wife's using the ball that we have. She's walking around. She's doing all the things that she can because they're not limiting her to just laying on her back. The midwives come in periodically and they check with a Doppler machine to see if they can still find the heartbeat of our son. And this process is going and going. And we get to a point where my wife actually starts active labor. She goes into the transition phase of labor. And we get stuck in that transition zone, so much so that my wife is starting to get dehydrated. And she hasn't really wanted to eat, even though we were allowed to bring snacks for her to have. And so not only is she getting dehydrated and not replenishing that, she's not eating. And so she's not getting energy there, but our son just isn't coming. And so what they do is they do another ultrasound. And if you want to talk about adding mental stress to an already tired couple, they say out loud that they can't find our son's heartbeat. Now, after you've been in labor for over 10 hours and struggling through transition phase, to hear you can't find your son's heartbeat really begins to add stress mentally. So the next decision was to call an ambulance and have us sent to the nearest hospital for an emergency C-section. And so we get in the ambulance, we're on our way. We get to the hospital, they take us into a room, they set up an IV on my wife. At this point, she's pretty much fried. They check her, they say, hey, guess what? You're at 9 centimeters. You push a little bit, we could hit 10, he could be here. But my wife was too tired. Next thing that was requested was an epidural because of the pain my wife was in. Now, to add more stress to the situation, the first anesthesiologist that came in and put the epidural in, he didn't set it up for it to be continuous. So we went through the initial dose of that epidural and it started to wear off. So then we had to call for the team again, and they come back in and they check and they're like, "Oh, we're so sorry. The epidural wasn't set up properly. We'll send in the new anesthesiologist," because honestly, we were one of the last people the first anesthesiologist saw when he put in the epidural. So they get that set up, and then they finally wheel us back for the C-section. Now, we'd been assured that the doctor doing the C-section was one of the best in the city and that he was going to be as gentle as he possibly could. But if you think about it, no C-section is actually gentle. The amount of stress, the amount of force that they're using on that baby's spine is very traumatic for the upper cervical region. And so thankfully, we get our son out via C-section. And we didn't know then the cascade of events that were going to take place. We didn't know how this was going to affect. And so it was through our journey after dealing with that stress of the mood issues, the sleep issues, the feeding issues, the tantrums, the meltdowns. And even though I was studying to be a chiropractor and I worked in another chiropractic office for 3 years, it really took examining these things and wanting to know why. And that's what got us started on this journey of looking into a pediatric focused chiropractic care using the nervous system as our base. Not talking about how the spine is pinching a nerve and affecting function, but looking more at the root cause of the problem, looking at the nervous system and looking at how that's going to help. And so after this transition was made and we did the scans on my oldest son, we saw the stress, we saw why these issues were happening, and we began to put it into action. So my son had been technically what's considered wellness care. He was being seen once a week. We upped it back up. We upped him to 3 to 4 times a week to really address this. Now, sleep hasn't always come easy for my oldest son, and it began to get a little bit easier. In fact, now his food tolerances or his willingness to try new foods has gone up. It's increased. And so we are starting to see these neurological changes in him as he is adapting better, as his nervous system is more relaxed, and as he begins to truly thrive. And so we are so thankful for this journey we've been on of discovering neurologically focused chiropractic care and applying it not just to the patients we take care of, but to our own children and really helping them truly thrive and succeed. So nothing is more powerful than parents looking for hope, answers, and help for their children. Don't ever stop just doing that. Moms and dads, it's always worth it. Take it from me. That's the truth. If you're interested in the next steps on the journey, we would love to first talk to you about your story. We can relate. So send us a DM or even give us a call to talk with one of our care advocates. If you're like me and my story and are new to the idea of pediatric chiropractic, check out our website to walk through our 5-step clinical process of a personalized consult, neurological insight scans, customized care plan, a report of findings visit where we guide you through it all and how we're going to care through neurologically focused chiropractic care. Plus, be sure to check out more of our team stories on our About Us page. You are likely to find one similar to your own.